Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Saints Insider Podcast for Friday, September 1st. I'm Zach Ewing. That's Luke Johnson, Jeff Duncan, and Rod Walker. And I'm echoing in somebody's ear. Does anybody else hear that?
It's not bad. Not bad.
That's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hearing myself twice, but yeah, it's been a fun day.
You're good for us, Zach.
All right. Apparently, I'm going to hear myself twice, and we'll keep going. We'll keep going. The Saints are 1 week away from playing, and that's bad.
You want us to take it over?
Why don't y'all take it over? And I'm going to try to reset this.
Yeah, all right. Well, look, we're 6 days away from the opener, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to this kind of break in the schedule. And after listening to DA at his press conference yesterday, it sounds like everybody in the building was. I mean, how many guys do you think were left in the locker room yesterday when we got in? When I say guys, how many players would you estimate were in there that didn't already have bolted home?
Yeah, I would say like maybe a third of the roster,
right?
Like maybe 20 guys. And one of them was Cam Jordan. He had to get his little media session in before he went out and did some traveling this weekend. I imagine there's going to be a number of guys who are going to take advantage of the long weekend to go out and see some family outside of Louisiana. So it's like the last hurrah before the grind of the regular season starts, man.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of guys. I know Trevor Penning was going to watch his brother play in a college game, and I think Blake Groupie was going to watch. Well, I don't think he was going to have time to make it to his brother's game. But, yeah, I think a lot of guys are just trying to get back and enjoy that last free weekend until January or maybe even February.
Hey, Blake Groupie told me he's got to find an apartment and to get his car down here. He's been down here the whole time without a car. So it just shows you how tenuous he thought his roster spot was. I think Lou Headley, the punter, was looking for a place as well. Because those guys, look, let's face it, they're undrafted free agents. No reason for them to buy a house or to invest long-term in a rental. They had to kind of be in temporary housing until they knew they were on the roster. And so now they've got a lot of work to do before the season starts.
Somebody needs to make sure Lou Headley gets in the Bywater, by the way.
No doubt. There's no doubt. He's got to get a sponsorship with a local tattoo parlor for sure.
The echo problem is solved, by the way, so we're all set. It's a holiday weekend for us too, and I think we'll probably all try to take a little bit of time off this weekend. But yeah, Saints Titans coming up, and look, it's rolling now. So the one bit of news we did have this morning on kind of a slow weekend, Jeff, you broke this that Tre'Quan Smith is out. He needed surgery. Nobody really knew that. He will not play week 1. He may not play for. We're not sure how long after that, but it's not a real short-term thing. Some argument going on about how much that actually matters. I mean, I thought it was funny. You tweeted that out, Jeff, and everyone was like, yeah, that means the Saints actually are at full strength. But as you've maintained, Tre'Quan Smith is valuable to this coaching staff. They like having him around, and he will not be around.
Yeah, and I think he's a better receiver than people give him credit for. I know he's been hurt a lot. I get the frustration, but he's had some big games. He's had, I think 300-yard games in his career. 157-yard was his career high. Of course, he's the one that caught Drew Brees' famous touchdown pass, and he gives him another big-bodied receiver with experience. He knows the offense a lot like Keith Kirkwood. There's a value to knowing where to be at the right time and knowing who to block and all that stuff. But look, I don't think anybody was shocked that he might not play in the season opener. He hasn't practiced in weeks. I think the news there was that he had to have surgery. And that's really the point of the story, was to let people know this guy isn't just on the sidelines. I mean, he's recovering and rehabbing from surgery, a surgical procedure with Dr. William Myers in Philadelphia. If you follow the NFL for any period of time, you know William Myers' name. I mean, he's performed these kind of core muscle, groin, sports hernia, whatever you want to call them, those injuries. He's a specialist in that department, and Saints have a very strong relationship with him. That's where he went. That's where he's been. Because, I think Rod and Luke will tell you, I mean, we haven't seen Tre'Quan until this past weekend at the Saints preseason finale. That's different than most of the other Saints injured players. You usually see a glimpse of them in or around the facility or on the sidelines at practice. Tre'Quan Smith's kind of been AWOL for a while, so now we kind of know where he was at.
Rod, Luke, is this a big loss? I mean, we talk all season, all preseason about the Saints being healthy, and now we find out, hey, they are not going to have at least one veteran guy around. Tre'Quan, if you had to pick someone, he's not the biggest loss in the world.
Yeah, I don't think the Vegas odds are going to change because Tre'Quan's not playing. But I mean, I think he is a valuable piece of this team. But I think he's a guy that Jeff mentioned, Keith Kirkwood. I think he's a guy that can, step in and fill that role. I remember talking to Cody Burns early in training camp, and that was one of the things he said he really likes about Kirkwood was his ability to block, and that's that's sort of the same thing we hear about Tre'Quan all the time. So I don't think that this is going to affect the Saints and their preparation for this game like one bit, but I do think Tre'Quan is a an important part of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on that. I think people look at his numbers and wonder what he's doing in the roster, but I think he has a much bigger role than just going out and catching passes. And it's really, I think, important to have a couple of receivers on the team who have no ego, right? I think Keith and Tre'Quan are guys like that. They're team first guys. Obviously, the injury issue is the biggest thing with Tre'Quan. This has been a problem for him since they drafted him in 2018. Consistently misses time every year. I think that's the biggest gripe a lot of people have with him. But as far as his contributions when he's on the field, I mean, he has a role and an important role on this team, even if it's not catching balls.
Yeah, all three of us had him on our 53-man roster. I mean, I don't think he was, surprised to make it. I know some fans were in an uproar about him making it, but I think if you've been around the team and listened to DA, you knew that Tre'Quan was going to be a part of this 53-man roster.
Well, speaking of the 53-man roster, it was set on Tuesday, and we've kind of gone over the initial surprises and the other things that went on that day. Jalen Smith back on the practice squad. We talked about that being a possibility. As we look forward to the first game week, do you all foresee any more moves between now and then? We could see Tre'Quan to the IR, for instance, and somebody replacing him. We could see Marcus May suspended still. What do you anticipate we should look for over this weekend and into the first game week?
I think one of the things I'm really wondering about is what's going on with Kendre Miller's hamstring injury. This is a crucial time of the year for him, obviously, with Alvin Kamara missing the first 3 games of the season. And I mean, the Saints were really banking on having that 1-2 punch with Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller to get him through those first 3 games. And if the rookie's unable to go, I mean, they're in a kind of a precarious spot at running back. So we saw him add Jordan Mims and Tony Jones, familiar face there, to go along with Kirk Merritt. But, it's not like a really astoundingly deep running back room if Kendre Miller's unable to go. So that's going to be one thing I think we need to watch closely. And if they start trotting out some veteran running backs for tryouts or they bring them in to sign them, I think that could be a bad sign for Kendre Miller's availability in week 1.
And Kirk Merritt was a guy that I don't think any of us had him on our projected 53-man roster. And so that tells you that, they know that this running back position is pretty thin. And Kirk Merritt's a guy that, he can play running back and receiver, but this training camp, he's, exclusively been playing running back. So I think the team knows that how thin they are at that position.
Yeah, it seems like there's always a position that gets a run on injuries, and it looks like it's going to be running back this year. I mean, Darrell Williams, they signed, to be that veteran guy, and he got hurt. Kirk Merritt's been hurt. Now we got Kendre Miller, who's been hurt, and he hasn't had a lot of luck so far in his rookie season. And I don't think it's a good sign that they brought in 2 guys immediately. That to me is insurance in case Kendre Miller can't go. But I do think it's interesting that they went with kind of young guys as opposed to the veteran route, Kareem Hunt or somebody like that. That indicates to me that this is going to be something that they just try to survive. But it wouldn't surprise me. Look, if we get to next week and they don't have Kendre Miller, it wouldn't surprise me to see them basically just try to use Taysom Hill as kind of their extra running back. Not that he's going to be a running back per se, but as a part of the running attack, taking advantage of his running ability at the quarterback position, just to kind of give them a ground game to lean on a veteran guy as opposed to having to maybe use some of these young guys that are still unproven.
I would hope they do that anyways, because he was really, really successful down the stretch in that role last year. I mean, maybe even more so than in other years. After they tried to like convert him full time to tight end and then have him be a backup quarterback, they were just like, hey, we're just going to have you play that role. I think he was really, really good in it. So I hope that doesn't just go away because he's like their third string tight end or whatever.
And this is a team that didn't run the ball well in the preseason. I mean, I think Alvin had 3 carries, and I think he averaged like 4-point-something yards per carry. But outside of that, I mean, this team struggled running the ball, and now all of a sudden you're getting thin at that position. So, I mean, that's going to be a really big part of this game, this season opener.
Yeah, look, 2 good run defenses right off the bat in Tennessee and Carolina. Good front sevens, difficult to run on when you're at full strength, much less when you're kind of banged up there. So that's something to watch.
Good question here from Kevin. Is Taysom fully healed from his oblique injury? He is back at practice, right, guys?
Yeah, he was back out there on yesterday. So he should be good to go.
Obliques. Yeah, obliques are kind of tricky. You want to give him time. But I think if he's back a full week before the game, that's a pretty good sign. Yeah, it's interesting. Ellis Merriweather was on the practice squad. Then he gets cut. So they're obviously still searching at running back, bringing in Mims and Tony Jones. And it's definitely an area to watch, especially those first 3 weeks without Alvin Kamara. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. I do want to bring some attention to our season preview over on NOLA.com, and that's what we call the tipping point. That was our theme for 2023 for the Saints, and we've explained it. There's a couple videos up already. We're going to do a video with each major story that we publish, and so far that's meant yesterday Luke did a feature on Derek Carr and what he means to the Saints and what the Saints mean to him. And then this morning it was Jeff, you did one on Pete Carmichael, a column talking about how Carmichael knows he needs to be better, but also certainly thinks he can be given the situation, the change in personnel. So a couple of those tipping point stories are out. We're going to do a feature story every weekday till kickoff. So the next one will be after the holiday. It'll be on Tuesday. That's Rod with Dennis Allen, and we'll move on from there. So guys, I guess as we talk about the tipping point, let's talk about how we got to that theme. And we talked about it in the videos a little bit, but let's touch on it here. This is a situation where the Saints could go either way. They are sort of at this precipice where are they going to get over the hump and become a playoff contender again? Or are they going to have to hit that reset button, Jeff?
Yeah, look, I think after 2 seasons of missing the playoffs, this is the second year in the Dennis Allen regime. They kind of had a little bit of a restart on the coaching staff. He finally gets his quarterback in there. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this team. And I think they're pretty much the unanimous choice to win the NFC South division. So, the schedule, we've talked about at length. It's one of the easier schedules we've seen in recent years. I think graded is the second easiest schedule or easiest schedule in the league, depending on who you look at. So there's a lot of things in place for this team to be successful. And if they aren't successful, I think questions are going to abound, not only from us in the media, but I think from the fan base, starting to wonder, is this organization slipping back into mediocrity the way it was before the Breeze-Payton era began, where the team was around a 500 club year in, year out. Every once in a while they win 10 games and make the playoffs, but more often than not, they're on the outside looking in. That's what I think goes behind this tipping point. I mean, we're going to find out, I think, how this season plays out, which direction this organization's headed.
Yeah, Rod and Dennis Allen right at the center of that. We'll talk about that Tuesday in our video, but obviously he has not had a successful season as an NFL head coach, and this really has to be the one. I mean, this is prove it time for him.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who question if he's a good coach, and I think this is his year to prove that he is. Because if he doesn't win this season with the things that are in place for this team, a lot of things that Jeff just mentioned, I mean, I think you have to start looking at possibly going in a different direction, and he just may not be that guy. And I mean, he's a guy that he's confident about this team this year. It's been pretty noticeable throughout training camp that he likes what he has. So and now it's time to see if that actually shows up on the field.
The other factor, Luke, of course, is he's got his quarterback, and that's I think the biggest factor. That's the Saints were not the favorites to win the NFC South before Derek Carr signed. Now they are. Dennis Allen is demonstrably comfortable with the guy he's got under center, and so that's a huge factor here too.
Yeah, and I think the team too. It's not just Dennis Allen who's confident. You talk to the veteran players on this team, the ones who know what it takes to win in the NFL, and they are feeling very good about this team's chances. And that's why I think this is such an important year for them, right? Because they went out and got the quarterback. Like that's like one of the obvious problems of the last couple of years. Since Drew retired, they've had average to below average to terrible quarterback play. Right? Just being honest, and it's not just hard. I mean, it's impossible to win in this league when you have a below average week in, week out performance at quarterback. So they answered the most important question, and they've been just holding on for dear life to having a competitive roster, right? They're extending guys, and they're pushing money into future years, and they're adding void years, and they're doing all this really aggressive stuff. The Saints led the NFL, I think, this year. They're either number 1 or number 2 in cash spending, right? Like they're holding on to dear life to this competitive roster, which the Saints fans should appreciate, right? Because the alternative is they blow it up and they are awful for 4 or 5 years, and they have to try to recoup and rebuild. But if it doesn't work with a $150 million quarterback, and if it doesn't work with Dennis Allen, and if it doesn't work with all these aging players you have on the roster, at some point you got to ask when enough is enough. So I think a lot of us in the media, a lot of the people on the team, Dennis Allen, everybody can all be confident all they want, but they have to go out and show it, and they have to do it this year, because if they don't, all those questions start getting really loud and impossible to ignore.
And look, I think it's a big tipping point year for Derek Carr too, because his entire career was spent with the Raiders, who are widely regarded as one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the league. And now he's in place with the exact opposite, an organization that's known for its stability, its strong management and leadership, and a veteran roster that's in place with a good defense that he's never really had before. So there's really no excuses left for him either. And I think he knows that. So there's a lot on the line for everyone this season. Pete Carmichael, Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis, the guy that hired Dennis Allen and picked him to kind of continue on this, status quo. So there's just a lot, I think, for the organization to prove. And like Luke and Rod said, I mean, everything's in place. So really, barring some unforeseen circumstances, the proof's going to be in the pudding and how this team performs.
Yeah, I mean, the window is closing. It's win now mode. Whatever cliche you want to use, they apply to this Saints team. And so that's why we went with Tipping Point. Check out those stories every weekday morning between now and kickoff on NOLA.com/Saints. And we're going to do some companion videos with those to kind of talk about what went into the story and really try to add to them as we look forward to that 2023 season. So before we go for the holiday weekend, let's take a minute. The college football season, I guess it technically started last Saturday, but in earnest, it started last night, had a couple of games, a few more games tonight, and then tomorrow it gets going, LSU, Florida State on Sunday. So we're going to have a little bit of fun and make our college football predictions. So I'm going to go around the room and ask you guys for your Final Four teams, your national champ, and I think we all have different alma maters here, so we got to give a prediction on our beloved college team as well. So, Rod, why don't we start with you, the Mississippi State Bulldog?
So we're doing the Final Four first?
Give me your Final Four teams.
I'm going with – I got 2 SEC teams, Alabama and Georgia. I think Georgia's schedule is just really easy. I got a road trip to Auburn and a road trip to Knoxville, but outside of that, I don't know if they'll even be tested this season. So I got them, and I got Alabama winning the West, and I think they'll end up, obviously playing in the SEC championship game. And I think Ohio State's going to end this 2-year losing streak against Michigan and win the Big Ten. So I got Ohio State as the 3rd team, and I think Southern Cal will be the 4th team. I'm going to ride with Caleb Williams. And national champ, I'm going with Ohio State.
Nice.
That's my pick. Yeah. And one of those semifinals, is here in New Orleans this year. So that'll be fun times for the city, I guess, for somebody.
Yeah, somebody will be celebrating in the quarter. And Rod, how about Mississippi State? What do we expect the year after Mike Leach passed?
Let me see. I won't ring it on here, but
Clinga.
they have like 8 home games this season. I think the schedule's really good. 2 of those home games are LSU and Alabama, so that's going to be tough, and that's all in the month of September. But if they can, I got them going like 7-5. If they can somehow upset Bama or LSU, I think they could easily you can bump it up to 9-3. But anything above that, I would think that Zach Arnett's done a really good job in his first year as head coach. So,
if they go 9-3.
Yeah, they were picked last in the West, and they typically do very well when they're picked last. So we'll see how that works out.
All right, we got one optimist in the room. I'll go next. I'm going to go my Final Four. I do agree with you on Georgia. Just too much talent and too little schedule. I'm going to take Clemson, Michigan, and USC as my Final Four, and I'm actually going to go with Michigan as a national champ against my better judgment. I think they have everything coming back, and they've been to the playoff a couple times, and will find a way to make it happen this year. My alma mater is Missouri. They opened last night with a very lackluster 35-10 win over South Dakota. I'm still kind of optimistic. I think I'm going to go 8-4. They're not terrific, but good enough to win some of those toss-up games, and I'll be optimist number 2. All right, we're saving Luke for last because he's the one the locals want to hear about. So, Jeff, the Louisville grad, your Final Four.
Let me just say, I was hurting for entertainment. I watched Missouri South Dakota.
Oh, man.
On the bike.
So that second half was dreary. Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all better go with the quarterback that played the first half. That's all I'll say, because the guy in the second half was not good. Louisville plays, I think they play the Saints version, the college football version of the Saints schedule. And I think they avoid Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State in the ACC. So they should have a good season under Jeff Brom. We'll know tonight. They play Georgia Tech tonight on ESPN, so I'll get a better feel for how good they're going to be. But I'll give them an 8-4 record, try to be conservative. I think he's got to build the defense back from those awful Satterfield years. I mean, it was awful. 270-pound lineman, defensive lineman, not going to cut it. So 8-4 for the Cardinals. And I hate to say it, but you stole my thunder on Michigan. I like Michigan, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Alabama in the Final Four. And I think Michigan's loaded. Maybe I'm letting Cesar Ruiz, influence me. But I've had 2 conversations with him about Michigan, and I mean, he's won me over. I mean, he thinks they're absolutely loaded, and they do have a lot coming back, and they got a good quarterback. They kind of have all the ingredients, and I think Harbaugh's a really good coach. So I'll go with the Wolverines.
And they get Ohio State at home this year,
right.
To Rod's point. So Ohio State would have to go up to the big house and win. All right, our resident LSU alum, Luke Johnson. First of all, Tigers and Seminoles on Sunday night. Big one.
Yeah, no, Tigers are going to win that game. Everybody knows that.
We'll see about that. Yeah. We might have to have a bet on that, Johnson.
Look, 12-0 national champs is the prediction now.
Here. Let's just first of all let's say I feel bad for everybody who didn't go to a school where you can say, my school's going to be in the playoff consideration here. Like all you 3 guys, I got LSU in playoff. I got LSU in the playoff with Georgia, Ohio State, and to avoid going straight chalk here, I've got Utah making a run and getting into the Final Four playoff here. I enjoyed them beating the snot out of Florida last night. And I think I'd take it. UGA probably taking the 1 seed, Ohio State at the 2, LSU in the 3. I'm picking LSU to lose a game, maybe in the SEC
Slow down
as a 3 seed. But I think LSU wins it this year, man. Jaden Daniels.
You're picking them to win the whole thing? The national title?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this team, man. Feeling good about this team. So
we have a couple of 8-4s
about this team.
9-3 and a 15-1. So we love our alma maters, I guess, on this show. We will revisit this in January. Believe me.
Please do. Play it for me when they go undefeated in January, so you can say I didn't have the faith in the team.
That might end Sunday night, man. This might not make it through the first weekend of September.
I know. They're going to win 15 in a row after Sunday.
I think the boys in the group chat might have killed me if I didn't pick LSU.
Yeah, maybe so. All right. Well, listen, enjoy the weekend of college football, the holiday weekend. We will as well. We'll be back with you on this podcast feed on Wednesday, September the 6th. We're going to talk some season preview in the NFL, and we'll also dig into Saints, Titans, and any other injury and news updates that we have. Of course, check out our tipping point preview on NOLA.com this weekend when you have some spare time. And also subscribe to our newsletter, by the way, like thousands of other people. You can go to NOLA.com/Saints Insider and put in your email address. It's free, and you get all your Saints news in your inbox every single morning. So these guys will say hello to you every single morning if you do that. And with that said, we will see you guys Wednesday. Have a good weekend. For Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan, I'm Zach Ewing. This has been the Saints Insider Podcast.